I didn't want the chassan and kala being scared that I fell off, because that wouldn't exactly enhance the simcha. So I started to dance in front of them. So it was a very interesting night. Half the people said, "Wow, that was such a cool trick! How you jumped off the tray and someone caught you and kept dancing." They thought it was part of my act. The other half thought I fell off and died. So I had half the people at the simcha saying, "How's your back? Are you okay?" Another half saying, "Wow, it was amazing! How'd you do that? Wow!" So it was like a very confusing night. I wasn't sure how to respond. One is saying, "Very good." Etiquette means how to act in any situation. Okay? If children would only have more etiquette in class, more derech eretz, it would be such a more beautiful world. Please. Now I want to end off this video clip with this thought. In life, we all have to juggle. You know what I mean? I have to juggle all types of jobs. Baruch Hashem, I'm a mile. I have to learn the halachas. Also, I have to be a teacher. Plus, I have to teach English, so I have to juggle different jobs. Plus, sometimes I have to sub. Sometimes I have to fundraise. I have to call on the phone and raise money for my different educational programs. Sometimes I have to go take care of the kids. Maybe walk them in the park. Maybe sometimes I have to go and visit a relative. But whatever the story is, everyone's juggling. Take a regular mother. She's juggling carpool, and cleaning the house, and cooking. So everyone is always juggling. So we can learn from this Gemara that it's a great simcha when you're able to do all of your responsibilities without them bumping into each other. In other words, to spend the right amount of time with your family and also the right amount of time learning Torah. So we have to juggle that. When should I learn Torah? When should I learn with my son? When should I learn with my daughter? When should I write a book? So we're all juggling different things in this world. I once asked Rabbi Yaina Weinrib, a famous artist, I said, "How do you do, Baruch Hashem, so many different projects at once?" He's working on many svarim. He's trying to make pictures, paintings of all of Chumash. And you know what he told me? He says, the Gemara says there's room on your head for 2 pairs of tefillin, for a Rashi and a Rabbeinu Tam. So he says, just like in your head there's room for 2 tefillins, there has to be room in your mind for 2 different jobs. Sometimes you're doing one thing, sometimes you're doing another thing. And I'll end with this. Rabbi Scheinberg was able to wash the dishes for his wife while he was looking at the Mishnah Berurah. I don't know how he did that, but he was able to juggle 2 responsibilities at once. He's learning Mishnah Berurah, the Shulchan Aruch, and at the same time, he's washing the dishes. So may we be zeicha to know what our responsibilities are, our obligations, and do them in a way where they don't bump into each other, but rather they complement one another. There's a Masechta at the end of Seder Nezikin, behind Gemara Avodah Zarah and Makos, that's called Masechta Derech Eretz. It's actually located after Masechta Avos. And it's very interesting that there's actually a Masechta in Shas called Masechta Derech Eretz. I think it would be very kedai in yeshivas that they would add Masechta Derech Eretz to the cycle of different Gemaras that are taught. That this way, people could start having Derech Eretz in yeshiva more, which would be a big Kiddush Hashem. I want to tell you a story of someone who had tremendous Derech Eretz for his Rebbe. That person was none other than my father, Alav Shalom, Rabbi Miamon Elbaz. He came from Morocco to Cleveland, and he was trying to learn from Rabbi Elia Meir Bloch, the great Gaon and Rosh Hashiva of Telz. And my father did not speak Yiddish. And Rabbi Bloch was so kind. He went and he said over the shir to my father in Hebrew. My father was very fluent in Lashon HaKodesh, and he would talk to the Rosh Hashiva in his tongue, mother Hebrew, and the Rosh Hashiva was so kind that he would try to say over the shiur to him in the language he was comfortable. And my father loved his Rosh Hashiva for this, and he got very close to him. The Rosh Hashiva had hundreds of Talmidim, and it was a glorious yeshiva in that time. One time, the Rosh Hashiva, who was so beloved to the boys, he cared for them, he wasn't feeling well. He was in the hospital. And he had a sickness and illnesses of a sort, and everyone was davening for him. Shever Refuah Shalema. My father was at the hospital for a long time, and eventually he came running to the yeshiva. And it happened to have been Simchas Torah. And at Simchas Torah you're supposed to dance with all the Freiliche songs and dance the 7 Hakafos with the Sefer Torah. And my father came running in, and he said the Rosh Hashiva will be fine. When the Bachram heard this, they started dancing with more joy, because before they heard that I'll be fine, they were too sad that the Rosh Hashiva was ill. They couldn't even bring themselves to dance. At that time, everyone started to dance, and it was getting very lebedik. And my father even jumped on the teva, and everyone was very excited. After Simchas Torah, someone found inside the Aron Kodesh, where the Sefer Torah is, a letter. And the letter was written from my father to Hashem. And he said, please Hashem, take 10 years of my life and give it to my Rebbe so that my Rebbe should get better. And my father donated some years of his life to his Rebbe. Someone told me it was 5 years, someone told me it was 10 years. I asked someone who saw the letter, saw the paper. And it turns out Rabbi Meir lived a number of years more to continue leading the yeshiva, and he had such warmth with his Talmidim. And Baruch Hashem, it was a great time for yeshivas, for Tal's yeshiva. When Rabbi Meir passed away, who do you think was there at the Yetzias Neshama? My father, Lava Shalom, was there. The Rosh Hashiva was making Kiddush for his wife, and he said, Mekadesh HaShabbos, he was nifter in my father's arms. Ordinarily, a person would have to tear his clothes kriya if his Rebbe passes away. But it was Shabbos. On Shabbos, a person is not allowed to tear his clothes. But it showed how close he was to his Rebbe till the last second of his life. And I think we have to learn from this, to try to give more kavod to our Rebbeim. I was just telling my friend, Ralph Tabelli, I told him, you know why I think some people are not so close to their Rebbeim? You know, they go from one Rebbe to another Rebbe, and I think I have an explanation. Some people think that a Rebbe is like a bus driver. He has to bring you from point A to point B. He has to bring you from one place to another place. So you had him, let's say, 3rd grade, he brought you to the 4th grade, then the 4th grade Rebbe brought you to the 5th. So after a while, a person doesn't really have such kavod for his previous Rebbe. Because in his mind, he doesn't realize what a Rebbe is. When Hillel HaZaken referred to Shemaiah and Avtayon, his Rebbeim, he said, this is the word of Hashem. This is the word of Hashem talking. He looked at their Rebbeim, he looked at his Rebbeim like Hashem. But we sometimes think of our old Rebbe like he was a bus driver. So just like my bus driver, I don't have to have a relationship with. So some people, they never ever call their old Rebbe anymore. They never talk to him. And we have to try to change that. Make the phone call, write the letter, ask him a question, ask him advice. Call and just ask him, how are you doing? How are you feeling? And that's what Masechta Derech Eretz should teach us. That you have to have more Derech Eretz, especially for your Rebbeim who devote their lives to help you know the word of Hashem. It says in Keheles, Lakol Zaman Ve'es. There is a time for everything. And if you go through the chapter, it tells you there's a time to sing, there's a time to cry, there's a time to dance, there's a time to mourn, there's a time to go to war, there's a time to go to peace. So there also says over there that sometimes there's a time to laugh, and there's sometimes a time to cry. So many years ago, I took this little booklet, and whenever I heard a good joke, of course with Jewish flavor, not stam comedy from the Goyim, I wrote down who said the joke, what was the joke, and then I would go around, once in a while to someone's house, tell them a good joke, make him feel good. Maybe if I have a guest on the Shabbos table, crack a joke, make him feel comfortable. There's something magical about a joke. People who hear it actually feel very much connected to the person talking. Somehow they don't feel threatened by him. In the book, I also wrote 10 of my favorite stories that I ever heard. This way, if I'm invited to speak at a party, let's say a Sheva Brachos or a Bar Mitzvah, I could think of a good joke that's appropriate, or maybe a good story, and I put them over here. And this book came in handy many times. So, I might as well record some of these stories, because they moved me, and I think they'll move you too. The first story I heard from my friend, Rabbi Eli Bohm, a special Talmid Chacham who works very hard at halacha. He always goes to Paiskim like Rabbi Miller and Rabbi Belsky, Shlita, and he asks them questions, and then he types up on the computer what they paskind. So he once spoke at Camp Reim, maybe 15 years ago, and I still remember the speech as if he's talking now, because he said it with passion, with feeling. The story went like this. Rabbi Yosef Kahaneman, the Panavish Rav, traveled around the world with tremendous Mesiras Nefesh and sacrifice to try to raise money to build yeshivas in Bnei Brak and around the world. He was known as the Panavish Rav, tremendous Talmid Chacham. And one day, he went to a big, wealthy Gevir, and he asked, please make a donation for our yeshiva. And the Gevir was not from. He was not religious. So he says, on one condition, I'll give the money for your yeshiva, for your school, on condition they don't wear yarmulkes there. So imagine the guy saying, I'll give $250,000 or $1 million on condition no yarmulkes. He was not from. He's not religious. So he doesn't wear a yarmulke. He doesn't want yarmulkes. So the Pan of Israel said, okay. And he took the money and he opened up a school, a Beis Yaakov. And no one wears yarmulkes over there. True story. The Torah tells us, B'tzedek tishpor am yisacha, which means you should judge people favorably. So even if you think someone is doing bad, you should really realize that the person is better than you think. So instead of hating someone and saying that's a bad person, tell yourself, you know what? He's better than I think he is. He's not as bad as I think he is. And you should think of why he's not so bad. So I want to tell you a story that Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky said about himself when he was younger, which was a real test for himself if he is going to judge someone favorably. Listen to this story and then think what you would have done in such a situation yourself. It was pouring rain, and not a drizzle. I'm talking a downpour, a rain shower, like inches of rain. and it was not the best of weather. It was probably a bit